You ever notice how it flips? When you were all in, texting first, explaining yourself, always available. They were busy, confused, not ready for anything serious. You waited, you overgave, you made excuses for their distance. Nothing. But the moment you stop, you reply slower. You don't initiate. You stop giving them play-by-plays of your day. You start living like they're not the center of your universe. And suddenly, they wake up. Now they're double texting. Now they're watching every story. Now they're asking what's wrong, are we okay, why are you different? They want you more when you finally pull back. Why? What actually changes in their mind? And how do you know if it's real attraction or just their ego panicking? We're going to break down the dark psychology behind that shift. If you recognize yourself already, subscribe to Emotional Psychology Coded right now, because this is the kind of thing you were never taught to see coming. Welcome to Emotional Psychology Coded. Attraction, attachment, emotional power, decoded. Today we're talking about why they want you more when you pull back. And first, I need to make something very clear. When I say pull back, I don't mean playing childish games just to get a reaction. I'm talking about the moment you stop betraying yourself to keep someone else comfortable. That shift does something powerful to the dynamic and to their psychology. Let's go into it. As long as you were always there, you were guaranteed. They knew if they texted late, you would answer. If they canceled, you would understand. If they pulled away, you would chase. You were emotionally on tap. Their brain adjusted. You weren't a gift, you were a given. When something is always available, the mind stops assigning it high value. Not because you're not valuable, because there's no risk of losing it. The moment you pull back, not with drama, just with consistency, you remove the guarantee. You become less responsive, less accessible, less predictable. Now the brain experiences scarcity. Suddenly they can't assume you'll always be there, and what they didn't respect when it was constant starts to feel rare. And rarity feels valuable. They're not necessarily thinking, oh my God, I deeply love this person. They're thinking, wait, why don't I have as much of them as I used to? Did I misjudge this? Are they slipping away? Your absence creates contrast. Before, you versus having you. After, having you versus not having you. That before and after hits hard. So the first reason they want you more when you pull back is simple. Your distance forces their brain to finally measure your value. But that's just the start. You trigger their attachment system. Everyone has an attachment system, the part of us wired to form and protect bonds. For some people, it stays quiet until there's a threat of loss. While you were chasing, over-explaining, over-giving, if they're avoidant, they felt crowded. If they're emotionally immature, they felt pressured. If they're used to being chased, they felt bored. But when you pull back, you flip the script. The avoidant who needed space now feels distance that they didn't choose. The person who said, I'm not ready, suddenly feels a subtle panic they can't name. Their attachment system wakes up. This is what psychologists call protest behavior. When a bond feels threatened or unstable, people act out to try to pull it back. So you'll see sudden check-ins, I miss you texts, random likes and story replies, nostalgic messages like remember when we. They're not always acting from deep reflection. A lot of the time, they're acting from activation. It's not always, I realized you're my person. Sometimes it's just, I'm scared to lose access to you. Your pulling back stops feeding their comfort. That discomfort jolts their attachment system, and they lean in. That can look like attraction, feel like attraction, sometimes is attraction. But often, it's anxiety, not love. That's why they pull you close when you detach, and drift again once they feel safe. You break the addiction pattern. Whether you noticed it or not, there was probably a reward loop running under the surface. Think about it. They'd give you crumbs of attention, one deep conversation, one passionate night, one sweet message, then go cold. You'd spin, overthink, chase. Then they'd come back just enough to calm your anxiety and keep you hooked. That's intermittent reinforcement. It's the same pattern that makes gambling addictive. You don't win every time. You win just enough to keep playing. Here's the part you underestimate. They get addicted too. To what? To the way you show up when you're all in. Your constant attention, your emotional reactions, your validation, your willingness to repair. You are part of their dopamine loop. They pull back, you react, they come back. You reward them with warmth, cycle repeats. When you pull back for real, not a fake 24-hour silence but an actual shift, you disrupt the loop. No more predictable reaction, no more instant soothing, no more emotional supply on demand. Their brain feels the gap. Why aren't they responding like before? Why isn't this working anymore? Why is it so quiet? That gap feels like withdrawal. Reaching for you now that you've pulled back becomes about chasing the feeling they used to get from you. Being wanted, being forgiven, being important, being able to affect you. They want you more because your presence is no longer a constant drug. It became a maybe. And maybe is what hooks people hardest. You threaten their ego, not just their heart. Let's drop the romance for a second. This isn't just attachment, it's ego. When you were all in, you were their mirror. Everything you did said you're special, you're worth my time, you're worth my effort. I choose you again and again. Even when they were half in, you stayed. That told their ego, I can have you without having to fully choose you. When you pull back, you shatter that story. Now their inner dialogue shifts. Wait, you don't need me. You're not chasing, you're not fighting for this. Did you find someone better? Was I not enough for you? This isn't always about love. Often it's about status in their own mind. You pulling away confronts them with a truth. They are no longer the center of your world. That threatens the image they built of themselves through your devotion. So their want becomes, I want to feel like I'm still that important to you. I want to know I could still get you if I tried. I want to prove I'm not the one who lost here. That's why people who never chose you fully suddenly show up when they see you moving on. Their ego can't stand the idea that you could be genuinely happy in a world where they're not the main character. So they want you more, not because they've grown, but because losing you bruises the identity they built on having you. You force them to compare you to their other options. When you were all in, they didn't have to compare you clearly. You were just there. Background certainty, comfort, safety net. Their attention could go to new people, distractions, work, escapes. Because you were a given, not a choice. When you pull back, you become a choice again. Their mind is forced to compare. Who else listens to them like you did, understands their moods like you did, forgives at the level you did, makes them feel that specific mix of desire and comfort? A lot of times, the answer is no one. But they don't see that while you're still there overfunctioning. Your absence creates a vacuum. The late-night conversations aren't there. The emotional labor isn't there. The I got you energy is gone. So now when they go to other people, they feel the missing piece. Even if those others are more exciting, new, fun, there's a depth missing that they only felt with you. They start wanting you more because they're finally experiencing what life feels like without your emotional presence. Not the fantasy of someone like you, but the reality of you. But again, that doesn't automatically mean they've become capable of loving you well. It just means they realized you were not as replaceable as they thought. You start valuing yourself, and that changes everything. Here's the part most people miss. When you genuinely pull back, not to perform but to protect, you change your energy. You stop acting like please choose me, please reassure me, please tell me I'm enough. You start acting like I choose me, I reassure me, I know I'm enough. That shift is subtle, but incredibly powerful. You stop over-texting, stop over-explaining, stop building a case for yourself, stop chasing closure from someone who never gave clarity. You redirect that energy into your body, your work, your friends, your sleep, your actual life. You become less available by default because you are now busy being a person, not a satellite orbiting their moods. That self-possession reads as confidence, value, mystery, independence. And those qualities are incredibly attractive. Not as a trick, as a side effect of you finally choosing yourself. You want to know why they often want you more when you pull back. Because you look like someone who is no longer asking for permission to be worthy. And that's magnetic. So should you pull back on purpose to make them want you? This is where people twist the message. They hear all this and think, okay, so the game is act distant, reply slow, pretend not to care, they'll chase. No. If you pull back but you're still obsessing, watching, waiting, testing, you haven't really pulled back. You're just performing distance to get a result. Energetically, that's still chasing. And people feel it. This often turns into hot and cold behavior, silent treatments, passive-aggressive tests, confusing signals. That's not power, that's manipulation. It might get a reaction. It rarely builds respect. The kind of pulling back that actually changes the dynamic is different. It's when you finally say to yourself, I'm done overextending for someone who won't meet me halfway. And then you act accordingly. Not to punish them, to protect you. You stop explaining yourself to closed ears. Stop begging for clarity. Stop being available for half effort. Stop entertaining inconsistent energy. You don't announce it, you don't make a speech. You just exit the old pattern. That's the pullback that shifts psychology on both sides. What to do when they suddenly want you back? So they notice the shift. They text more, they seem more interested. They say they miss who you were before. What now? Here's the key. Don't confuse desire with development. Them wanting you more now doesn't mean they've reflected deeply, solved their patterns, learned to communicate, become secure. It means they feel the loss, they feel the threat, their ego, attachment, and reward systems are firing. So instead of they want me again, so it's meant to be, ask what exactly are they offering now that they weren't before? Is there clear communication, real accountability, a willingness to meet your needs, consistency over time? Do they respect your new boundaries? When you reply slow or say no, ask for more, call out disrespect, do they lean in with maturity? Or do they guilt trip you, call you cold or different, try to drag you back to the old version of you? Do you feel calmer around them now, or more anxious? Your body will tell you. Tight chest, knots in your stomach, hypervigilance, overthinking. That's not love, that's your nervous system remembering. If them wanting you more still cost you your peace, it's not a blessing. It's bait. The real point of pulling back. The goal is not make them chase. The goal is stop chasing those who won't meet you where you stand. When you pull back from over-investing in the wrong places, a few things happen. The wrong people fall away, the half-invested get exposed, the genuinely compatible step forward. Because people who are truly capable of loving you will respond to your self-respect with more respect, not punishment. And if someone only wants you when you're slipping through their fingers, ask yourself, do they want me or do they want to win? Pulling back reveals that answer. This is emotional psychology coded. Attraction, attachment, emotional power, decoded. If this hit a little too close, Don't just listen once and forget it. Save it, replay it the next time someone suddenly wants you back, the moment you finally start choosing yourself. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't keep walking blind into the same dynamics with different faces. You are allowed to be warm, loving, available, without bleeding for people who only realize your value when you walk away. They may want you more when you pull back. But the real question is, do you want them now that you finally see clearly? I'll talk to you in the next one.